أعزائي كل طلبة الاي جي اللي حابين ياخدوا بزنس اي اس، وطبعا أنا بأقرر اللي حابين ياخد بزنس اي اس أو بزنس اي ليفل. الفيديو ده موجه ليكم، الشرح ده عشانكم. أنا اسمي دكتور أمل سليمان، بدرس بزنس اي اس واي ليفل. وطبعا اتمنى ان كل طلبه الاي جي يستمتعوا معانا بالسيشن، واذا حبوا اي حاجه يقدروا يعملوا دايركت كونتاكت معايا. انا بدرس بزنس للاي جي بقالي شويه، واوريدي هنستعرض مع بعض توبيك مهم من يونت 1. قررت ان انا ابداه معاكم اللي هو الاوبجكتيفز. What do you mean by objective? يعني any one of you know about objectives? Yes, exactly. Objective, something very important. زي ما انت قلت بالظبط. Something very important. Something very important to know how I'm going to achieve. Because if I'm not going to put a target for myself, I cannot work. I cannot simply achieve anything. This is why I should have an objective. This is at the beginning. I should put for myself an objective. You as a student had an objective. What is your objective? To attain high marks or to get a star in the subject. And this can be attained by different procedures. This is why I should know the objective in order to arrange the procedures in order to attain my objective or achieve my objective. Okay. We have different factors that determine several objectives of the business. We have a business, and this business, we call it a corporate. It's a company, and this company has certain objectives at the top level for itself. On the other hand, there are some objectives that can be put for the departments inside the company. And also, there will be some objectives that should be put for each one work at the lower level in the company. This is why we should know what is the difference between the corporate objective and the lower level objectives. Here, the corporate objectives should be put at the top level, should be put by the top management. This is why it has certain strategic objectives. It has certain unique characteristics. It is directed to achieve certain things that let your company have unique market share, for example, or be more competitive. And that said, it's something broad. It is not detailed. This is why we call it, it is at the higher level or at the corporate level. But on the other hand, we have another objectives which can be brought at the generic or at the lower levels, either the middle level or the lower level. These objectives are targeting the generic decision. It should be more detailed. There should be more description for the objective. There should be something that clarifies how you are going to do this, how you are going to achieve it. This is why if you are going to target certain objective which you are going to achieve at the middle level, which should be achieved, for example, by product managers inside the marketing or by a certain department like the marketing or the operation, these objectives should be more detailed. It should be very clarified and should concern how to control the people, how to motivate the people who's going to do this objective, or who's going to implement these objectives. On the other hand, if you are going to put an objective on the lower level management or at the operation level, here you are going to be concerned more about more details like methods, how I'm going to do it, like rules, and so on. This is why at this level, you are going to target the generic decision, but at the top level, you are going to target the unique decision. Thus, we have different factors that determine the corporate objectives of the business. The first thing is the corporate culture. What is a corporate culture? The culture that is found inside this business and that distinguishes business from its competitors. Not all the business have the same objectives. There are several factors that affect the nature of the objectives established by any business. This is why there's a difference between a certain corporate culture and a certain and another corporate. There is a difference between, for example, Toyota culture and Rolls-Royce culture. And also there is a difference between the objectives of Toyota and the objectives of Rolls-Royce. Just here. What happens? The culture can affect the objective. This is why the chef, executive officer, or the top manager can participate in the creation of this culture or in the change in this culture, can participate in it. Another factor, which is the size and legal form of the business, and this can affect the corporate objective. Yes, exactly. It can affect the corporate objective. Why? Because if you are the owner of a small business, maybe you are concerned only with attaining certain profit, right? But if you are a larger business, perhaps you are going here to be concerned most about rapid growth of the business in order to increase the status of your business, in order to increase the power of the manager. This is not something that had been considered by the small business owners. This is why this is often a result of the development of the business, because here the business had been developed. It had been enlarged in the size. Sometimes here we are talking about the public limited companies, which are lower than the small business. This is why here the motive will differ, and so on. Thus, the result here is the difference between the ownership and the control. Here, there is a divorce between ownership and control. When the company enlarges in size, sometimes there is a separation between the ownership and the control, between the owner and the manager of the business. I'm going to say that because, you know, it's the new trend in most of the corporate is to separate the ownership from the management. This is for the sake of the business, but you cannot say that for a small business owner. It cannot be. This is why objectives here will be different from a certain corporate to another because of this legal thing. Another factor, which is public sector or private sector business. Definitely, the public sector business has different objective rather than the private sector. Why? Because the aim of the private sector is to attain profit and make financial gain, and the public sector had another aim, which is satisfying the citizens. try to provide certain essential service like education and health. This is why there is another objective. There is a difference. There is another factor that affects objective, which is the number of years the business has been operating. And this is very important. Why? Because if this business would like to survive, it should cope with all of its failures in the past. This is why we can see that there is a great failure rate of some new business at the first year of operation. But later, once this business had been established and tried to put different objectives in order to cope and to grow, it can go through the growth process and it can attain profit. This is why the number of years that the business had been operating can be a factor that affects objectives. Another thing, which is divisional and departmental and individual objectives. Definitely, once the corporate objective had been determined and had been known, we are going to put what? The departmental and individual objectives. How this can be attained? You are going to break down the broad goal, which is a corporate objective, and they try to split it into separate goals. It can be attained on the level of the department. And then after you put the departmental objective, you are going to split these departmental objectives into small objectives on the individual level. And these two create certain objectives at each level concerning this. Thus, the corporate objective relates to the whole organization objective. Like what? I am going to say to you, okay, my corporate objective this year is to attain 10% growth in the market share. And that's it. This is the corporate objective. But how am I going to put the departmental objective? You cannot say to the marketing department, for example, attain 10% increase in the market share, and that's it. You are not saying to the operations department, you are going to attain 10% increase in the market share. The operations say, okay, this is not my concern. Please give me an operation target, how much I'm going to produce. What is my target? You should give me how much units I'm going to produce this year from all the products. And that said, you are going to give the operational department a target, how much units you are going to produce as a company. Then the operations department will split the number of units per each product. Thus here, you are going to let the division or the departmental objectives to be splatted as per individual objectives. Each individual will have a certain target. For example, each area in the production will be concerned with the production of certain number of units. For example, it is required from the factory to produce 200 million units this year. Okay. Thus, it is required from, for example, the dairy department to produce 100,000 units. And from the juice department, for example, to produce the rest. And after this, you are going to split that per product. Thus, the yogurt should have certain number of units to be produced, and also the milk, for example, will have different number of units to be produced at this year. What's happened here? I'm going to make an individual objective for each one who's concerned with a certain area in the production. Okay, this is why I'm going to break down the objective into meaningful target to the people who's going to do the job. Okay, who's going to put these divisional objectives? This is a senior manager. Why the senior manager will do this? In order to make coordination between all the divisions inside the corporate. And if they don't know how to work together, the focus is to let these divisions to work together in a very good, satisfying way in order to prevent disagreements. Also, consistency with the corporate objective should be attained, because I have a certain objective is to increase the market share of my company by 10%. So it should organize this objective all over the other divisions inside the company. I should let the marketing coordinate with the operation, coordinate with the finance, coordinate with the HR in order to achieve this objective. This is the role of the senior manager. I should provide them with adequate resources to allow them to achieve this objective, because I should let them know that once a certain division objective had been attained, this can help in achieving the big objective, which is a corporate objective. Also, I should make a budget and a target for each individual. This process is called management by objective. Everything in the resources have been split according to the target, according to the objective. This is, we call it management by objective. Okay, this management by objective is a process that had been taken after discussion and agreement with personnel at each level of the organization, so they can work effectively, and there will be a delegation of authority, which means your manager can delegate part of his or her authority to you in order to do something. This approach can be considered as a support to McGregor theory. If you remember McGregor theory, which is theory Y and theory X, theory Y approach, say, okay, the target at each level can be imposed from above, okay? Then there will be a delegation of authority. But theory Y here concerned about delegation of authority and passing from object of the, or splitting of the objective from the top level to the lower level. On the other hand, theory X style is not concerned with this. Is not concerned with this. It says, okay, there is no discussion. The top level will put the objective, and everyone should couple this objective. We're saying why? Say no, you can participate in the decision making. You can put your objective and try to admit it to the top management. Maybe at the end, the top management, when they are going to do the overall objective, they consider your opinion. Thus here, there is a consideration of the lower level objectives. There is a consideration of the lower level and middle level managers. They can take part in the process in the decision making. This is in theory Y, but theory X say no, there is nothing. And this is why motivation is less likely to take place in theory X style. Thus, management by objective, which means cooperation and discussion of objectives, very, very close to theory Y, which enable delegation of authority and discussion of objectives. Thus, how I'm going to communicate my objective as a manager? If you're not going to communicate your objective with your subordinates, what will happen؟ يعني أنا دلوقتي لو أنا الناس اللي معايا مش هقدر إن أنا أعمل communication معاهم للobjective بتاعي، هم مش هيعرفوا يعملوا to achieve anything. This is why communication of objective is very important. Very important. It had a lot of benefits because employees and managers achieve more. You are going to know more. You are going to understand more how the individual goals can be achieved and how you are going to participate in attaining the overall or the overall corporate objectives. This is why creating shared responsibility between employees by interaction and interlinking and communication together is very important. As managers here can stay in touch with their employees' progress. You should let your manager know about your achievement, how you are going to keep the performance well, how you are going to exert an effort in order to achieve the objective. What about your deadlines? Have you achieved the objective on the corresponding deadline or not? All of this is very important, and communication here is very important. In addition to communication, we should concern another thing, which is the ethical influence on business objectives and decisions. And here the ethics is very important. What do you mean by ethics? It's something of certain social responsibility that leads a business to apply the ethics code to influence the way the decisions are taken. Thus, you should consider morale. يا جماعة الأخلاقيات دي مهمة جدا. الأسكس معناها أخلاقيات. الcompany should go through this. For example, a toy company advertise its products to young children so that what will happen? They will enforce the parents to buy the products. It is not legal to make advertising for these young children. It is also acceptable to take, it is not acceptable to take bribes to place an order with another company. You cannot make this. Bribing is unethical way. Should a bank invest in a company that manufactures weapons or testing new chemicals on animals? No, it cannot be because it's against ethics. Is it acceptable to feed genetically modified food to cattle? This can bring disasters in the society. It is not acceptable. You accept lower profit in the short term by purchasing less polluting production equipment. Sometimes I can accept as a business, and there are a lot of business will not accept. They go for buying this. Should the chief executive receive substantial pay rise and bonus when other workers in the business are being made redundant and leave their jobs? Yes, it can be in some business, but this is against ethics. It's something very important to be known. Is it acceptable to close a factory to save costs and increase profit, even though this will induce many jobs to be lost and many workers suffer? Is it acceptable? No, it is not acceptable from the ethical point of view. If legal control and inspections are weak in a certain country, is it acceptable to pay very low wages to the workers? If it is acceptable to let these workers work for long hours? No, it is not acceptable. It's against ethics. If the business can get away with it, should it employ a child labor? No, it is not acceptable. Should it produce dangerous goods till someone will find that? No, it is not acceptable. This is the dilemma. Ethics should be considered when I'm going to make my objective. This is why I should consider the ethics code and the code of conduct. This is why it should be taken into consideration when the business decide to operate. This is all about objectives in business A and A level curriculum for the RG students. I hope that you had enjoyed this discussion. And if there is anything, please contact me. Thanks a lot. I had enjoyed my time with you, Dr. Amal Seliman, and you are going to have my contacts. And if you'd like anything, please contact me. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.